Welcome to Real Talk Baseball. I am your host, Will Power. John is feeling a little under the weather today, so he won't be joining me. Thank you for joining us today and every Thursday during the regular season and making us your go to baseball podcast. Our show is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, make sure you hit those like, subscribe, and follow buttons if you haven't already. And on today's show, we are talking about your Cleveland Guardians. On today's lineup, we have the 2024 overview, the Andres Gimenez and Josh Naylor trade breakdown. Ace Shane Bieber agrees to a one-year deal. The return of Carlos Santana. Prospects that could impact 2025 and our 2025 projections and predictions. Starting with the 2024 overview. 92-69, good enough to win the AL Central title. Led by AL Manager of the Year, their new manager, Stephen Vogt, who actually just retired from playing professional baseball in 2022. He had some pretty big shoes to fill as the former manager of the Guardians, Terry Francona, is considered the best manager in Cleveland Guardians history, holding the record of 921 wins in 11 seasons with Cleveland. Very impressive stuff, but Stephen Vogt definitely held his own in the AL Central, taking his team to the ALCS, but ultimately losing to those Bombers in the Bronx. They obviously had a successful season, though. Everyone knows Jose Ramirez, arguably the best third baseman in the American League, finished the season with a 6.8 WAR. But there were some other names that impressed as well, starting with Steven Kwan, had one of the hottest starts of the season that I've ever seen. He batted .350 with a .931 OPS in March, .350 with a .868 OPS in April. Only had 21 plate appearances in May because of a back injury, but he returned and just continued to rake. Finished with in May with a .471 batting average and a .1218 OPS. And batted .374 with a 1,018 OPS in June before he basically fell apart, batting .206 in the last 3 months of the season, dropping his batting average from .370 at the end of June down to .292. He was on his way to becoming the batting champ in 2024. But then something clicked for Kwan after the season was over, because in the postseason, he batted .381 with a .863 OPS. So we haven't seen this type of production from Steven Kwan in the past, but honestly, looking at his numbers, his underlying numbers, his expected stats, I think that we can safely say that he's a pretty decent bet for batting 300, and not a lot of power, not a lot of speed, but he's still very, very valuable. And then we have Andres Gimenez and Josh Naylor, which brings us to our next segment. Andres Gimenez, Gold Gloves second baseman, has been traded to the Blue Jays in exchange for first base, second base, Spencer Horwitz, and minor league outfielder Nick Mitchell. Then just a few hours later, the Guardians sent Horwitz and to the Pirates in exchange for right-handed pitcher Luis Ortiz and prospects left-handed pitcher Josh Hartle and left-handed pitcher Michael Kennedy. Josh Hartle was a third-round pick in 2024 draft, while Michael Kennedy was a fourth-round pick in the 2022 draft. Now, Luis Ortiz had a breakout season for the Pirates in 2024. He was used primarily out of the bullpen to start the season, but transitioned into a starter by June. Finished the season with a .332 ERA and a .111 WHIP. 107 strikeouts and 135 innings pitched. Doesn't get a lot of strikeouts and allows a lot of fly balls. I don't know how he's able to maintain that low ERA, but honestly, I don't expect him to be able to replicate the season that he just had. The Guardians are in need of another starter, so I understand filling the void in their rotation, but trading away their third best hitter for this, I don't like this trade at all. And Josh Naylor traded to the Diamondbacks for right-handed pitcher Slade Cecconi. I really like Josh Naylor. His batting average was a modest .243, but he increased the power production, hitting a career high 31 home runs. Previous high was 20 back in 2022. And if you're a return viewer of our show, you probably know that I am a firm believer in what I call the man strength years, which starts around 27 years old and usually continues into their mid 30s. Josh Naylor turned 27 years old last June, and I think he will continue showing this type of power production for the next few years. Now, taking a look at what the Guardians got back in return for Naylor, Slade Cecconi had some success in AAA in 2024, but he was not very good in the majors. In 13 starts in 20 appearances with the D-backs, Cecconi finished 2024 with a 6.66 ERA, 64 strikeouts in 77 innings pitched. I hate this trade. It makes absolutely no sense to me. Josh Naylor either should have been traded for someone better than Cecconi or just keep him. But then I thought maybe this is just a salary dump, considering Naylor is going to make about $14 million in 2025, and the Guardians' first baseman of the future, Kyle Manzardo, hasn't even hit arbitration yet. So he'll likely make less than $1 million per season for the next 3 years. But then the Guardians go out and sign old man Carlos Santana for $12 million. So I really don't like this trade. I really think that Josh Naylor is more valuable than that. And if it really was just a salary dump, I don't understand the point of then signing Carlos Santana. So moving on to Carlos Santana. Let's see. Santana will be entering his 16th major league season. 10 of those were with the Indians, now called the Guardians. At 39 years old, he and Justin Turner are the oldest active relevant hitters in the majors today. I think Santana signed with Cleveland for two reasons. I mean, one, he's a little bit older, right? He wants to retire with Cleveland after spending majority of his career playing in Cleveland. And two, to mentor the young top prospect, Kyle Manzardo. Manzardo has a similar profile to Santana, decent power, very mid batting average, but great plate discipline, walking almost as much as he strikes out. I think this is actually a good move by the Guardians if this is the plan. Santana is the perfect veteran to guide Manzardo and bring out his potential. So I understand the signing. I think that Josh Naylor is just so valuable. And if you want to win the division, you stick with what's working, and they got Carlos Santana for $2 million less than what they would have been able to keep Josh Naylor for. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see how it all works out in the end. All right. Let's see. Moving on to Shane Bieber signed a 1-year deal with the Guardians for a very low amount. He signed for $10 million with a player option for 2026 worth an extra $14 million. He probably won't be ready to pitch until June, which is the most likely reason why he took such a discount in 2025. The deal also includes a $4 million buyout. But Shane Bieber's coming back from Tommy John surgery. And coming back from Tommy John surgery is basically the hardest thing for pitchers to do. Sometimes players come back and they're awesome. When Jacob deGrom back in 2009, Justin Verlander in 2020, both of those pitchers had their surgeries and came back and won the Cy Young after their surgeries. But look at Walker Buehler last season. When he came back from Tommy John surgery this past year, he was terrible. Strikeouts were down, walks and hits were up. The lack of control was embarrassing. And everyone always says the last thing to come back is control. So what Shane Bieber will look like when he gets back is a mystery until we can actually see what he does in minor league rehab assignments. But if Bieber can get back to form, he has top 5 starting pitcher potential. So I really like this signing. I feel like it's like Shane Bieber's like a make it or break it. He's trying to get a bigger deal after this season. So signing for $10 million, if he can't get back to form, at least he has that player option to fall back on, pitch for the Guardians one more season, and maybe get back to form after that. Sometimes it takes a little while. So we shall see. There's a few pitchers that are coming back from Tommy John surgery in addition to Bieber next year. We got Shohei Ohtani and Spencer Strider from the Braves. So we'll see. Three pitchers with all the same surgery. It'll be interesting to see if any of them can actually thrive. Now moving on to some prospects. So prospects that could impact 2025. First one is second base. Travis Bazana, the number 12 prospect on MLB's top 100, who was the number 1 overall pick from the 2024 draft, has only played in high A ball so far, so I wouldn't expect Bazana to be ready for the majors anytime soon. But now that Andres Gimenez is gone, it opens up a hole at second base. As for now, the Guardians have Juan Brito slated to be their everyday second baseman, but he won't be blocking Bazana from taking over as soon as Bazana's ready. Bazana has been an on-base machine and speed threat his whole college career, so it will be interesting to see how that will translate to the majors come September. And the second prospect, Chase DeLauder, the number 16 overall pick from the 2022 draft. This guy is ready. He's only played 6 games in AAA last season, but his minor league numbers have been awesome. Career-wise, 317 batting average, a 387 on-base percentage, and a 904 OPS. Great on-base skills. Showed some speed in college, but hasn't utilized that in the minors so far. I could definitely see DeLauder getting an invite to spring training and impressing enough to be on the 25-man roster. And moving on to our 2025 lineup projections, we have Stephen Kwan leading off, Kyle Manzaro batting 2 at DH. And then you have Jose Ramirez, Carlos Santana, Lane Thomas, Will Brennan, Juan Brito, Bo Naylor, and Brian Rocchio. And I believe Brian Rocchio has been in trade talks lately. I don't know if anything's going to come back for that, but we'll see in the coming days, the coming weeks, or the coming months. Let's see. And the starting rotation for the Guardians coming up in 2025, you have Tanner Bybee, Ben Lively, Gavin Williams, Luis Ortiz, maybe, and the 5th starter, Tristan McKenzie or Logan Allen. It'll probably be one of those two until Shane Bieber is ready to come back from his Tommy John surgery. We also have the newcomer, Slade Ciccone, unless he ends up being traded also. We've seen that a couple times where these players get picked up from a new team and end up getting traded just a couple hours later. So we'll see. With all these moves the Guardians have done in this offseason, I don't see them as a better team than they were last year. So I'm going to say they'll finish with 90 wins, 72 losses, just 2 wins less than 2024. And that concludes our show for today. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button and join us this Thursday when we cover the St. Louis Cardinals 2024 season and 2025 projections. And once again, thank you for making us your go-to baseball podcast. For John, myself, and all of us at Real Talk Baseball, we hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you guys Thursday. Peace.